0800 hours. Above the Strait of Hormuz, the morning sky was split by the rising call of general quarters as the U.S. superfleet moved into its highest state of mission readiness. What was unfolding in real time went far beyond anything intelligence teams had predicted. The destroyer USS Delbert D. Black had its Spy-6 fire control radar fixed on the command center of Iran's $1.5 billion carrier-style vessel, the Shahed Bagheri. Below the surface, 20 IRGC fast patrol craft opened their underwater launch systems, forming a tightening pincer around the world's most important energy corridor. High above, F/A-18s from the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln thundered through the sky, their precision-guided systems tracking every Shahed drone launcher. One wrong move, one nervous decision, and the entire global economy could be thrown into chaos. Tehran believed it had trapped the American giant. But just as the moment of decision arrived, something deeply unsettling appeared on the radar screens, freezing the command crews in place. What was really moving in the shadows beneath the ocean? The standoff in the Strait of Hormuz had become a live demonstration of 21st century asymmetric strategy. To understand why Tehran would risk so much on a single operation, you have to understand the strange logic behind its maritime plan. Unable to build a traditional carrier from the ground up, the IRGC transformed a massive 250-meter commercial container hull into something entirely different. They added an angled flight deck, mounted rows of Shahed drone launchers, and installed Zulfikar missile racks across the structure. The result was the Shahed Bagheri. On paper, it looked like a slow-moving target, but inside the narrow waters of the strait, it became something far more dangerous. A $1.5 billion floating fortress and a Tier 1 decoy designed to pressure the world's most vital energy route. At 8:42 in the morning, the situation shifted into something almost unreal. As the USS Delbert D. Black held a steady 18 knots, the Shahed Bagheri began filling the air with powerful electronic interference. At the same time, 20 IRGC fast patrol craft spread into a crescent formation, trying to push the American destroyer closer to Iran's rugged coastline. The crew of the Black stayed completely silent on all electronic channels. But as the Spy-6 radar peeled apart the Bagheri's signal profile, the ship's advanced combat system detected a chilling mismatch. The signals coming from the Iranian vessel were not coming from drone control stations. They were being produced by high-powered simulator generators fixed to the deck. The Shahed Bagheri was not the real threat. It was an electronic phantom, an expensive shell built to make the American Aegis system waste its entire defensive magazine on an empty illusion. The real danger was hiding below the waves. While every eye was locked on the surface carrier, Tehran had already moved a group of Ghadir-class mini-submarines and autonomous underwater vehicles beneath passing civilian oil tankers. These hidden systems were using the massive engine noise of merchant ships as both a physical screen and an acoustic cover. Their instructions came in short, low-frequency bursts from controllers concealed in the coastal cliffs. The silent machines below were sliding across the seabed less than 2,000 yards from the Black's propellers. So how does the U.S. Navy solve a needle-in-a-haystack problem when a 300,000-ton oil tanker is being used as a moving shield? Any response carried enormous risk. One mistake could trigger an environmental disaster in one of the most sensitive waterways on Earth. By 8:50 in the morning, the Hormuz chessboard had reached a point of extreme imbalance. While the decoy vessel Shahed Bagheri continued to roar on the surface, drawing every eye toward itself, Iranian Ghadir-class mini-submarines and unmanned underwater vehicles, known as UUVs, had quietly moved toward the USS Delbert D. Black, closing to less than 2,000 yards. Their approach relied on a dangerous and calculated tactic. They hid beneath the massive civilian supertanker Majestic Sapphire, a 300,000-ton giant, using the thunder of its engines to cover their own underwater sound signature. Trying to detect a mini-submarine beneath a tanker that large was like trying to hear a mosquito in the middle of a roaring rock concert. The situation was extremely delicate. Any mistake involving the tanker could trigger a major environmental and economic disaster in one of the world's most important waterways. Iran's plan placed civilian traffic directly in the danger zone, turning innocent vessels into cover for its final move. But the U.S. Navy was already responding. From the deck of the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, two MH-60R Seahawk anti-submarine helicopters rose into the fog like sea wolves. They swept across the tanker formation and deployed a dense network of SSQ-53G passive sonar buoys around the area. At 9:05 in the morning, the United States began its underwater acoustic operation. Instead of relying on ordinary search patterns, the Seahawk processing system used an advanced fusion algorithm to peel away thousands of layers of tanker noise. Bit by bit, it separated the deep mechanical rumble of the oil ships from the low-frequency signatures of the Ghadir-class propellers. They did not need to see the hidden vessels. They were building a map of the seabed through sound alone. Once the Iranian crews realized their acoustic cover was being decoded, the Shahed Bagheri changed tactics. The vessel suddenly activated its fire control radar and locked onto the Seahawk helicopters, attempting to pressure them out of the area. But the USS Delbert D. Black had prepared a cold and calculated answer. Instead of escalating immediately, the Flight 3 destroyer used acoustic signature masking to hide its true position. By adjusting the water flow around its propellers and activating simulated acoustic emitters, the Black created an underwater ghost image designed to mislead Iranian sensors. To the enemy, it appeared as if the American destroyer had changed course and moved several miles away. Iran believed it was closing in on the target, but in reality, it was following a digital illusion created by the U.S. Navy. While the enemy focused on the false signal, the USS Delbert D. Black quietly transmitted the real coordinates of the underwater threat to a Virginia-class submarine operating deep beneath the surface. In that moment, the pursuer became the one being tracked without even realizing it. Do you believe in the power of the U.S. Navy? Comment 1 below. At 9:15 in the morning, the atmosphere inside the command center of the Shahed Bagheri shifted completely. The Iranian mobile fortress went from confident pursuit to digital confusion in a matter of seconds. Tehran's commanders stared at their mission control screens, expecting to see the final approach path of their large Shahed drone formation. Instead, they saw a storm of flickering icons, broken data, and system integrity warnings. This was not a simple brute force interference attempt. It was a precise digital disruption carried out by the unseen reach of the American global shield. High above the strait, two EA-18G Growlers from the USS Abraham Lincoln had already established a high-gain digital link with the USS Delbert D. Black's SEU Block 3 system. Together, they were not simply filling the air with electronic noise. They were carefully dissecting the drone swarm's control signals, layer by layer, like a spectral autopsy unfolding in real time. Using machine-assisted signal analysis, the U.S. Navy identified the hidden rhythm that kept hundreds of drones moving together as one coordinated system. The American electronic warfare teams did not need to take over every drone. They only needed to disturb a small portion of the swarm's communication flow. For the IRGC, the result was devastating. As the corrupted signals reached the drones' onboard systems, the entire formation began to lose synchronization. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of autonomous hardware drifted away from its assigned routes, broke formation, and began crossing into each other's flight paths. To the Iranian operators, it looked as if a ghost had entered their network. At the same time, the U.S. fleet activated an advanced radio frequency fingerprinting protocol. Every urgent command burst sent from the Iranian mothership to regain control was intercepted, studied, and traced back toward hidden emitters buried deep inside the coastal limestone of Keshem Island. Without realizing it, the hunters had just handed the American Aegis system a high-definition map of their most sensitive command and control network. But the true masterstroke was psychological. The U.S. Navy had not actually taken control of the drones. Instead, it shaped what the Iranian sensors appeared to show. When Iranian commanders saw their own drones turning back toward their fleet, panic spread through the command center. They believed the Americans had broken into their encrypted control system and were preparing to send the entire Dragon Swarm back toward the Shahed Bagheri itself. Facing what looked like a total systems collapse and fearing that their own machines might become a threat to their flagship, the Iranian leadership made a desperate decision. At 9:20 in the morning, Tehran's Central Command issued the emergency shutdown order. In a single instant, thousands of Shahed drones, once presented as the pride of Iran's asymmetric arsenal, lit up across the sky and fell into the restless waters of the Gulf like burning titanium rain. The Dragon Swarm disappeared not because of a direct strike, but because of the very commanders who had launched it. And for the IRGC, the humiliation was only beginning. By 9:30 in the morning, the loss of the drone swarm had pushed Tehran into strategic desperation. For the IRGC commanders, losing $1 billion asset demanded an immediate show of strength to protect their regional image. So they turned to their final card, the missile cities. Deep inside the jagged limestone cliffs of Keshem Island, heavy bunker doors began to open, hidden coastal batteries came online, and the fire control radars for NOR anti-ship cruise missiles awakened with concentrated pulses of electromagnetic energy. Their sensors locked onto the hull of the USS Delbert D. Black. The standoff had now reached the narrowest and most dangerous part of the strait. The NOR missile was built to skim just above the waves, flying low enough to challenge radar detection. At this distance, a coordinated launch could shake global energy markets and pull the entire region into a much larger confrontation. One command could send a wave of steel across the water and push the American Aegis shield to its absolute limit. But the U.S. Navy remained ice cold. In a silent display of confidence, the USS Delbert D. Black continued its steady 18-knot transit. It did not turn away. It did not rush toward open water. It did not even change its heading. Instead, the American destroyer deliberately held its course, allowing its signature to remain visible and sending one unmistakable message toward the Iranian cliffs. We know exactly where you are, and your steel does not scare us. That was the message hanging over the Strait of Hormuz. In modern naval dominance, the side with the stronger network does not need to flinch. It only needs to let the system work. While Iranian crews stared nervously at their launch consoles, the American Overwatch made its next move. From the USS Abraham Lincoln, positioned beyond the horizon, EA-18G Growlers released a wave of MALD flying decoys into the battlespace. These digital phantoms could imitate the radar profile of a Super Hornet or even a heavy bomber. In seconds, Iranian radar screens filled with 50 high-speed contacts racing toward the coast from multiple directions. Tehran's commanders were pushed into complete tactical confusion. They had only 5 seconds to choose. Should they activate their remaining coastal systems against what appeared to be 50 incoming American aircraft, exposing the precise locations of their hidden underground bunkers and inviting an immediate precision response? Or should they stand down and accept a crushing strategic defeat? It was a duel where the United States had already aimed at the center of the board, while Iran was still trying to figure out which piece was real. The IRGC thought it had trapped a giant. Instead, it realized the giant had been standing behind it the entire time. The standoff reached its highest point. The hunters from the east were one heartbeat away from learning that, in the Strait of Hormuz, the most dangerous threats are often the ones that never appear on a map. At 9:45 in the morning, Iranian commanders finally understood they were looking at a digital mirage. The confrontation ended not with a blast, but with absolute strategic silence. Facing the possibility of losing their entire underground coastal inventory to a rapid American response, Tehran chose preservation over escalation. Its crews powered down their fire control radars and ordered a full withdrawal. The Shahed Bagheri, the $1.5 billion paper tiger, was escorted back toward Bandar Abbas under the sharp, high-definition watch of American surveillance drones. The United States did not send the Shahed Bagheri to the bottom because in high-stakes intelligence, a floating target can be more valuable than a wreck beneath the water. That vessel had become a billion-dollar liability. From that day forward, every time the IRGC started its engines or activated its sensors, the Pentagon would be able to read its intentions before the order was even spoken. This was more than winning a standoff. It was turning an entire fleet into a source of information. The United States does not look for a confrontation, but when the line is crossed, it knows how to end one. In the deep blue waters of the Strait, there is only one rule: do not touch the boat. What do you think about the acoustic harvest victory? Was the captain of the USS Delbert D. Black right to show restraint? Or should the United States have delivered a stronger lesson to the IRGC? Let us know in the comments by typing yes. Your support helps us continue bringing you these high-stakes strategic briefings. Do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Navy Vector so you never miss a mission. The sensors are active. The board is set. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next deck.